Top 5 mistakes when going through an interview at the US Embassy. You're promoting your personal brand to the officer to explain to them why they should award that visa for you. And so in the eyes of a consular officer, the biggest factor they're going to look at when granting a non-immigrant visa is how likely is it that you're going to come back to your home country. Now, if you're applying for an immigrant visa, as ironic as it sounds, the interview process in general for immigrant visas is a little bit easier. What do you do to ace your interview? So the first thing is, always make sure you're calm. It's a bit of a psychology test, a psychological test. They're looking at how you're behaving. And even if they're asking an easy question like, what's your name and where were you born? If you start getting nervous and you got sweat coming down your face, that's going to bring up questions in their mind. Other problem is when there's inconsistent information. So that's either inconsistent information you provide during the interview. At the beginning you say one thing, at the end you say another thing. That's a problem. Another problem is where you might have written something in your DS-160 form, and then at the interview you say something quite different. And it's not always a matter of them quizzing you, hey, what did you answer for this question in the form? But it's more like they will ask some general questions, and then they will start looking at seeing your responses. Or what happens as well, they may do a little research before your interview, and they might double check on some of your answers. And they might see that even though you said you had never applied for a visa before, they can find out that 5 years ago you did apply and you got a denial. That's a problem. You never want to hide anything from the consular officers. Now, another question that comes up in the non-immigrant visa space is when they ask what you're coming to the US for and how long you're going to be here for. This is probably most relevant during a tourist visa interview, and we're not going to touch on that since we really don't deal with tourist visas that much, but it also can come up if you've got an E2 and O1. They want to find out a little bit, okay, what are you planning to do in the US? Okay, you're coming to work, you're going to develop your business, but they might want to know what are your long-term plans. Another issue that comes up oftentimes is, and I've heard this from consular officers myself, is that they want to get a feel for the person, if this is the type of person they'd like to have as a neighbor. There's no legal requirement, whether you're getting an E2 or an EB5, to be a nice person, but your ability to do so will always help you in the long run with the interview process. The other thing that I always tell my clients, have a little short elevator pitch about yourself and your plans. So if you've got an E2 visa, you're going to want to talk a little bit more about your business. If it's a tourist visa, you're going to talk a little bit maybe about your plans to visit the US. It's best to have like maybe a 5 or 10 second rehearsed piece in your mind. You don't want to have a 30-second dialogue. Hey, I'm an experienced producer with 20 years of experience, and we're planning to do a number of new movies or productions in the United States in the first couple of years, and after that, we're going to develop it to do X, Y, and Z. You know what you're doing, you've got a clear vision, a clear plan, and you've got your numbers down pat.